It doesn't matter if you live in a city, town, or village, on a First Nation or a farm. We all have neighbors, but our relationships with them can be quite different. That's the focus of the Neighbourhood Project, a new CBC Saskatchewan series. Peter Mills is bringing us those stories for the next few weeks, and he joins us now. Peter, what are we learning about our neighbors in Saskatchewan?
Well, Sam, I'm personally learning a lot. I mean, if you think for a second, what is a neighbor? Is it someone next door? Is it someone down the hall in your apartment? Is it down the road? Or is it in a different city altogether? Well, it's really all of those things. And this neighborhood project highlights that, and also the diversity of our neighbors and just how our relationships are really being affected by the pandemic.
What do we know about how the pandemic is changing things?
Well, we actually did some surveys on this. So we teamed up with the Canadian Hub for Applied and Social Research at the University of Saskatchewan. Now, one survey was done prior to the pandemic and one was just a few weeks ago, so almost in a very heart of the pandemic. And we asked things like, do you know your neighbors by name? Do you talk to them? And how often do you talk, kind of thing? And interestingly, the results are very similar before and during the pandemic, which kind of surprised me. And the majority of people say, they do know their neighbors by their name and they do talk to them regularly, but that did take a dip during the pandemic, with 22% of people saying their relationship is worse now. But then on the flip side, Sam, we're also hearing things like, you really appreciate your neighbors more these days during the pandemic.
Absolutely. So who are we going to meet in this neighbor series?
We're going to meet a lot of people, and a lot of people from diverse backgrounds. People living in every kind of home, apartments, condos, on farms, and in every corner of this province. Cowessess First Nations Chief Cadmus Delorme brings great insight into this and to kick off the series and really what it means to be a neighbor.
It's like an extended family in a certain perspective. You're not blood family, but because you share a communal area, you have responsibilities. And I've heard the horror stories of bad neighbors, and I understand some of my neighbors were a little more aggressive than others, but I would always approach it as, we share this communal area and you're like an extended family. So I'll respect you and you respect me.
So just such a profound perspective from Chief Delorme, and there's a lot more of that. I also talked to Regina musician Davy Sage. Now, he was born and raised in Western Nigeria. He moved to Saskatchewan when he was about 25 years old. And when he did, Davy Sage says his sister immediately told him something about interacting with his neighbors.
The night I came, she sat me down. She was like, David? I said, yeah, what happens? She said, if you don't love someone, don't tell them you love them, because if you tell them you love them, they might think you love them. So don't go fooling around. You know what I mean?
So you can tell Davy Sage has a lot of love for his neighbors. And I just love this project, and I can't wait to shine a light on both the good and also the bad relationships we sometimes have with our neighbors.
Very much looking forward to it. Thanks, Peter. The Neighbourhood Project is a new series here at CBC Saskatchewan. Stay tuned to our show and CBC Radio for more stories and details on how you can nominate your neighbor and win yourself some great prizes.